Welcome to Chronic Combat Conversations, a live look at our best bets, picks, and predictions for every UFC event with your hosts, TB Scouting MMA and
the Guru back again for UFC Vegas 85 live from the lovely Apex Arena. We've got your middleweight main event between Roman the Caucasian Dolidze and Nassourdine the Imavov, the sniper. I was going to call him the Imavov. That's ridiculous. But before I can let the show get off the rails, before we can get into this banger of a card, we have a special guest to introduce, and I mean special guest. This guy, listen, if he's not choking you out, he's cashing tickets. So be careful. Make sure you're checking him out on patreon.com/LiamPicksFights. Make sure you're subscribed over on YouTube, Liam Picks Fights. He does his Liam's First Look. Liam, good to see you, buddy.
It's good to be seen, in the words of the great Chael Sonnen. It's good to be here, boys. Excited to talk about the card with you. And now we've got, 8-9 weeks in a row of UFC. So I'm excited, man. It's back to work, back to that regularly scheduled content. And I'm excited, man. We got a lot of great fights to break down, 13 fights on the card. So plenty of action and hopefully plenty of good spots to find.
Definitely. I can't wait to break this card down. So the only thing we're going to do before we break the card down is just ask for a little help. Listen, normally we go live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. We brought in such an amazing guest, Liam, that we had to make sure his schedule could fit ours. So here we are on Tuesday, but please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It really helps us out so much. And we just love producing free content, giving you our best bets, picks, and predictions with the best guests, always free. So we are ready to kick it off. We are going to start in the main event. We got Roman the Caucasian Dolidze, and that we're talking about the Caucasus region, of the mountains, not anything like that. And then we've got Nassourdine, the sniper Imavov. I mean, this is a great matchup here. I think there's a reason why we see Roman Dolidze on the left side of the screen and why we see Imavov on the right side. I think who the UFC might want to promote a little bit more, big, scary, dangerous, lover of bays, or I'm sorry, Roman Dolidze.
Steal your girl.
Mr. Steal Your Girl. But the most important thing to talk about is just the constant danger that Nassourdine Imavov is going to be facing in this matchup. Dolidze is happy to come forward on the front foot or play a counter game, safely skirting away distance on the outside. But when he crashes into the pocket, it's fireworks. I know it could look low volume and low output on paper, but Roman Dolidze, when it gets to time to fight, he's ready to throw down. And I think the other interesting aspect of his game is you just don't want to play anywhere on the mat with Roman Dolidze. Going to be the stronger guy in this matchup, someone that legitimately fought and won fights in the UFC at 205, someone that's been to decision. We have seen a little gas out, right? Trevin Giles fight, first cut down to 185, welcome to the middleweight division. But since then, I mean, Roman, he's at least shown that he's willing to fight to the end. And Marvin Vettori fight, man, I can make an argument for the Roman Dolidze ticket there. But that's not why you guys are here. So why does Roman beat Nassourdine Imavov is the plus 140 underdog on DraftKings? Well, I think it's either on the feet or on the mat. Imavov likes sliding out of distance. He likes touching and going, but he plays on the back foot. And over time, inside this small octagon, it's only a matter of time before he's pressed up against the cage in the clinch, or ducking into his own clinch, trying to avoid the pocket exchange from Roman Dolidze. And someone that loves to rely on his wrestling in his back pocket, Imavov, I don't think it does him any positives in this fight. I'm going with the underdog here. Not quite a max bet, but I'll throw a couple of units on it. I think right now on Caesars, there was still a plus 150, but I give you the DraftKings odds on this show. So me and Guru, happy to take a little plus 150. Guru, is there anything I'm missing in my breakdown here? What do you think about this fight?
Man, I think this fight's really, really interesting. And it's one when I first started looking into it, I thought I was going to end up on the Imavov side. I thought, sniper, pickpocket him, sharpshoot him, right? Dance around the cage, right? Stick and move, tire this guy out. But as I continue to watch the tape, it's just not what I really ended up coming away with. When I watched the Chris Curtis fight, I watched Nassourdine Imavov take breaks with whether it's Curtis's, kind of low volume counter striking or Nassourdine's willingness to go into the clinch and grapple. As TB correctly pointed out, it's not an option here. Go ask Jack Hermanson. Like, Dolidze is not a guy that you want to be on the ground with at all. And to Dolidze's credit, he's not somebody you necessarily want to be in the clinch with either. He's really violent. So I just think somebody like when you watch Nassourdine Imavov fight Sean Strickland, like that's kind of the matchups he needs. Just kind of right to his wheelhouse, which is striking. And even that, he was unable to come away. I think it was Sean Strickland's volume and experience that pulled away in that fight. But yeah, I just think that when you look back at the one thing that really stands out is that Phil Hawes loss, right? Not wiki capping. I mean, really watching the fight. It's the way he's getting controlled in the clinch by Hawes. I mean, that's the blueprint here. And when you watch maybe Roman Dolidze's worst loss, which would be the Trevin Giles loss, I mean, Trevin Giles is like, actually kind of athletic, like underappreciated in his sort of athleticism, and maybe even like Liam had said when we were DMing about it, maybe even a little difficult to actually submit. And that's, I think when you watch that fight and you watch Roman now, the improvements are like leaps and bounds. I love the fact that he spent half of his camp at Extreme Couture. I would expect Eric Nixick to be in his corner. I always love when Eric Nixick is there. He's always going to give you a good shot at winning. So give me the underdog in a fight that I think is fairly close to pick him. What do you think, Liam?
Yeah, I largely agree with your assessment, but I don't think it's like an easy call either. Like I could make a case for the Imavov side. And when you said that you thought that the UFC wanted to promote Dolidze, that's the one thing where I would maybe push back a little. Not to say that they don't want to promote him, right? He's obviously got a very marketable style. They have a very similar social media following. But when I look, I always think to myself, like, the UFC wants young guys to succeed. And Nassoudine's only 27 years of age, right? They already put him in a 5-round main event. And I kind of felt like, maybe Roman Dolidze got a little bit of that screw job finish against Marvin Vettori. I thought it was a very close fight. I'm not saying it was an out-and-out robbery. But, when it's the UFC's guy, those ones go their way, right? Like those close fights, they find a way to get those across the finish line more often than not. See Paddy Pimblett, Jared Gordon, right? It's like there's just examples where it's like a close fight. Hey, it could go either way, but it always goes to the house fighter. In that case, right, Marvin Vettori was able to bounce back, get a win there. He was a massive favorite. I would assume that the books were a little bit exposed on that plus money on Dolidze. So they were like, maybe not. Maybe next time, buddy. But you can make an argument in a case that this guy could be on a 4-fight run as an underdog, right? Just cashing in over and over again. And so you do have to say, like, is there going to be some regression, right? Is that going to fall off? Or are people just systematically underrating this guy? When you look at the Tapology votes, it gave me a little pause to bet him as a dog here just because more people are picking him, right? Like, I want to see some enthusiasm on the Imavov side. I want to see some people put money that way. So I know that it's not all, Dolidze money and the line's not maybe moving accordingly. So here's my case for the Imavov side, right? He does some things right. He's fast with his jab. And I do think, you said that he's on the back foot, and I think that that's true. More often than not, he can go back and forth. But I do think he does a pretty good job dictating the range with his jab. And so the Phil Hawes fight, a little bit older fight, he didn't do a great job, dealing with the jab or, basically controlling with the jab in that fight. But you see in subsequent performances, he's gotten a lot better at doing that, managing his range a little bit better, keeping people at bay with the jab. And I think that that's something that he's been working on, But what I also noticed, and the reason I can't get behind him at the chalk price, is he does a lot of his best work from the top position. The Buckley fight, pretty competitive rounds. I'd say he's winning the rounds, obviously, but pretty competitive rounds. And then late in the round, he gets a takedown. He gets on top. Buckley makes a critical mistake, shoots from too far away. But I just don't know that he can replicate those same results against Dolidze. I think if you want to beat a grappler like Roman Dolidze, you got to give him no space. You got to crush him, and you got to, hold him down and make him a little tired because he's just a menace, right? Like he'll create attack after attack. You've seen black belts like Jack Hermanson have no answer for his guard. He's just too effective with his attacks, too fast, willing to transition. But we've also seen guys that are pretty competent in the grappling, but nothing exceptional, like Trevin Giles, shut him down, to turn those leg attacks into opportunities to strike. And so when I look at this fight, I say to myself, Imavov's not an easy guy to finish. Dolidze is not an easy guy to finish. It does seem to me like a fight that's probably going to go over the total. If it doesn't go over, I think that indicates Dolidze probably got him, right? He probably caught him with something crazy. But when I envision, like, how could Imavov finish this fight? I think the way he finishes, if he does, is that Dolidze starts to tire out. Then Imavov gets a takedown, and he holds him down and batters him like he did against Edmund Shabazian. Now, I think Dolidze's 10 levels above Shabazian, but it wasn't that he was 10 levels above, like Imavov wasn't 10 levels above Shabazian either. He just outlasted him and then waited for him to get tired, got on top, and bludgeoned him. There's nothing really sophisticated about that, but it's effective fighting, right? When you look at Imavov's game, his best attribute, in my humble opinion, is his ground and pound. He's just very good at making it count when he gets on top of somebody. I think he did his best damage to Buckley from the mount and also from that backpack position where you normally don't see a lot of guys get off damaging shots. He bloodied the face of Buckley pretty significantly in round 2 from the back, just punching him. So those were all some impressive factors to me. For me, feels like a fight where I have to go dog or pass from a betting perspective, but I don't feel great about it. I almost feel like betting a contrarian fight goes to decision here at big plus money because there's two pretty tough, durable guys that people both expect to gas out. I'll tell you just from like competitive experience, right? If you're worried about gassing out, if you maybe aren't super experienced with 5 rounds, what are you going to do? Maybe conserve some energy. Maybe not go put it all out on the line. Frankly, if I was coaching Nassourdine Imavov to win this fight, I would be like, hey, brother, stick the jab in his face, take 3 steps back, throw a low kick, and then move. That's it. You don't do anything else this whole fight. Like there's certain fights that because somebody's really dangerous, you have to limit the exchanges. And I think with Imavov, if he limits the exchanges on the ground, he could look like a hindsight massive favorite in this fight. Because the one thing I'll say about Dolidze is he fought Marvin Vettori, who's very basic, who does nothing that's scary, who's not a very big hitter, and he walked him down with impunity and took the shots, no problem, because Marvin Vettori can't bust a grade. Marvin Vettori doesn't hurt anybody, doesn't rock anybody, doesn't knock anybody out. So I was expecting Marvin to turn a corner at some point and start hurting people. It just doesn't happen. You guys can go look through the tape. I can't find examples of it, right? He's just not a very big hitter. So when you look at that, you say, man, Dolidze walked him down with impunity. Jack Hermansson's a low kick merchant, right? He's a good black belt. He got a decent jab. He's a low kick merchant. He always has been from the striking standpoint. He's not that dominant on the feet. He does his best work with ground and pound on the ground. So a lot of these guys have been a little bit stylistically favorable for Roman, but you have another guy in Imavov who does his best work on the ground, likes to go for the ground and pound, these kind of things, probably going to shut off that part of his game. But now it's going to ask the real question of Dolidze at 35 years of age with limited striking experience. Can you go out there against a guy like this who has a background in wrestling himself? So he can theoretically stuff some of these takedowns. He has a pretty decent takedown defense rate. Can you go out there and implement your takedowns and your grappling game? Because a lot of his grappling so far has been guard pulls. There's nothing wrong with that when other guys want to wrestle and grapple with you. But if they don't, then you need to get the takedowns yourself. He has decent takedowns. I haven't seen takedowns that were like, oh my God, blow my hair back. So he's strong, he's physical, he could take him down, but he might have to commit to that Phil Hawes lean you against the fence game plan. And then you have to ask, does he have 25 minutes worth of that in his arsenal? We've seen him do it for 15. So he could definitely do that style of game plan, just rear waist cinch, lean against you for 15 minutes. But can he do it for 25 against a guy like this who's probably going to have some athletic intangibles to match him? That becomes an open question for me. So lean is towards the over. Lean is towards one of these guys to win a pretty close decision right now. But because of the finishing upside on Dolidze, I'd say he's probably the money line side. It's just not an easy fight for me to call, especially after watching the tape. I think both of these guys have some attributes, and I think both of them have some marketability for the UFC. But for me, Imavov can be rebuilt if he loses this fight. He's still a young guy. And I think for Dolidze, if he loses this fight, like his time as a contender is gone. He kind of reminds me of a Paul Craig with punching power. So I think they want to try to get this guy to the top of the division if they can, and get him into a big fight. He'll talk shit as well. He speaks English, training at Extreme Couture in Vegas.
New father.
So give me Dolidze. It's close.
Amen. I love the analysis. Liam does amazing deep dives into tape with the technical analysis because his experience just gives him a view that some of us just don't share, not competing at any level. So really appreciate the insight to the overall, skills that each possesses and how each one can win. I'm betting on the physicality, and we'll see how it goes. So it seems like we have the right lean, but not the full conviction. But here we go. We got Renato Money Moicano versus the Crimson Chin Drew Dober. Great matchup here. I think calling this a striker versus a grappler kind of discounts the fact that Moicano hurt Riddell on the feet, who outstruck Drew Dober. I don't know. I think that this fight has multiple layers. Drew Dober has a solid enough wrestling background himself, and Renato Moicano's calf kicks and boxing are actually pretty solid. Really only falling to the best of the best competition-wise. And at minus 180, I was happy to get on the money train early. Moicano, I think he has more ways to win here. Having the size, the reach, and a real home here now at 155. I think that this is the right place for Moicano. And most of his knockouts, not all of them, did come at 145. But I'm willing to give him a pass against, the likes of Rafael Fiziev. First time carrying that extra weight against a really fast striker. Doesn't see that last punch in the combo really coming. But Drew Dober, in a similar right, as someone that's eaten tons of strikes, gets knocked down almost every fight at this point, is getting hurt almost every fight at this point. I mean, except for against Ricky Glenn, because, that was Ricky Glenn. But realistically, Drew Dober, I just think his chin is too available. I think Moicano is able to touch it, even if he doesn't get this fight to the mat. And I do think that Moicano's wrestling takedowns and entries, although he hasn't consistently pursued them every single fight, I think when he recognizes that that's, the part of the matchup that he needs to get to, Jai Herbert lands 5 takedowns. Alexander Hernandez hurts him on the feet, takes advantage, and finishes with the sub. There's a reason Moicano doesn't have any knockouts, and it's not that he can't touch you on the feet. It's that anytime he hurts you, the dude is like an anaconda, taking the back, getting the front choke, looking for a guillotine submission, or one-arm rear naked chokes against the fraudulent Bonfim brother. I guess they're both frauds. So, anywho, Renato Moicano here, I got him, early before line movement, minus 180, not as exuberant. But what I will say is I kind of lean towards the over 1.5 as well in this fight. Drew Dober, while he does get hurt, it takes a while to actually put the guy out unless you're Matt Frivola. Then also, submission-wise, are we saying that Renato Moicano's got better submission game and overall grappling than like an Islam Makhachev? It took him 3 rounds. So if you don't feel comfortable, I understand if you could be on a Drew Dober by knockout, Drew Dober round 1 KO. There is the possibility. I just think there's a greater chance that Renato Moicano wins this fight.
I think that was an excellent breakdown, TB. I think you're spot on. Drew Dober is somebody who was like never really well known for his punching power, and has all of a sudden found himself tied with Dustin Poirier for the lightweight knockout record. So, or maybe he took it in his last fight with Glenn. He's been electric in this career resurgence here. I'm just not completely sold that Moicano's durability is completely shot, right? That Dober's just going to come out here and starch him. And if Moicano does get in even some sort of trouble on the feet, I do expect him to use his grappling. So, Drew Dober, as you said, is not necessarily somebody known for their takedown defense, right? Has only a 57% takedown defense to begin with. His athleticism, I think, helps him more in terms of not being controlled on the ground as opposed to actual technique. But I think some, like you said again, TB, the Python in Money Moicano here is gonna control him. Yeah, see, I love that just win, baby. I was gonna say plus 360 decision, right? Like the wiki cappers and this, I'll be honest, the submission is tantalizing, right? Dober has 4 submission losses, Moicano 10 submission wins. It's exciting, but let's be real. Submissions don't actually happen that often in the UFC. The price kind of gets us interested. And I love what TB said about the over 1.5. I think it takes some time. So as that fight goes longer and longer, I think those chokes become harder and harder to sink in. Liam, you can tell us about that with your grappling experience and getting nice and sweaty. So yeah, I like everything about it. We got in early on Moicano, but hey, that's why hopefully you follow us. We got Moicano minus 130. So I feel pretty happy about that. We did our job in terms of that, but hey, plenty CLV tickets sit in the trash. So don't hate any dog shot here. Listen, Dober's one of a fan favorite. Love Dober, but give me money here. What do you got, Liam?
I think this fight could go either way. I don't feel extremely bullish on a side in this fight, but I do have just a couple things that I didn't like from Moicano this week. He's like talking shit about UFC 300 in interviews and stuff like that. And, maybe that's no big deal, but just like things that I don't love to see when I'm about to bet on a fighter, bad mouthing the company. Don't like it. Like just, anything like that. So here's the other thing, right? If I had just like, if somebody said, yo, Liam, guess Moicano's age, I would have been like, I don't know, 31, 32, 34, right? So he's like a little bit older now. Both these guys, kind of not on the contender track, if you will, more so on that action fighter, that kind of track in the division. I would say with respect, these guys are very good enhancement talent. I don't believe that they're ever going to fight for lightweight titles. I don't think they're ever going to have top 5 fights. But I think that they're going to showcase guys that are headed that way. And so in this spot, I almost feel like they're like, all right, who's going to be, our elite gatekeeper and who's going to take that step down the card. And, I do worry that if Moicano loses, a handful of fights, he could get cut from the UFC because you start talking shit, bro, they pay attention. You say one bad thing, bro, Dana White's like a fucking elephant. He never forgets. And he's ruthless. So you say something bad, then you got the win over Drew Dober, no problem. Who's a guy you've never heard of that name ends in OV? That's who you're fighting next, right? Nobody's ever heard of him except, the 10 people that he's defeated in the first round via knockout, right? Like it's going to be some monster and it's going to be a problem because they can do that. They decide. They pick who you fight. You don't pick. So you could say no and then not make money, or you can say yes and then got to take the whooping, right? So hard business. When you look at this fight on paper, Drew Dober is a company guy. He's a UFC guy. Been around a long time. That's what gives me pause. He's like a UFC hitman. They bring him in if they've got a guy that they want, tested, right? And even the fights that he has won recently, they've been getting more dicey, right? I said before the Frevola fight, and I was embarrassed that I didn't have nearly enough on the money line or the ITD, but I thought that Frevola was going to submit it because Frevola is a much better grappler than Drew Dober, fact. But when you look at that fight, he didn't need to, right? He just went out there and bopped him with the hands. He was too fast, too powerful. But you look at the fact that Moicano has no wins by knockout, and that does stand out to me, right? I know he's obviously prolific submission finisher, the club and sub, a man after my own heart, right? I love that as a prototype for MMA. But we've kind of seen him at times drawn into the same pattern of fights where, he doesn't always pursue the grappling, right? He's a little bit of an ego guy at times. He's gone out there and dealt on the feet, right? Calvin Kattar, very good striker. I think a lot of people would say, man, he's a top guy at featherweight. He's a guy who could really strike. And he just whooped his ass, right? Like Moicano just dealt from the end of a jab, from the end of a low kick, and just never let him get close. So could he do that to Drew? I mean, that is possible, right? And, Rich, very sharp guy. Renato by decision. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. But I have been burnt by this once before. Okay. I bet Bobby Green. I think it was plus 135. And guys, I felt like a genius about, 6 minutes into that fight. I was like, Bobby is doing everything I thought. He's pitching a shutout right now. I feel like he is on fire. Momentum's there. He's sharp. Reads are there. He gets hit with a left hand and dies. That's the Drew Dober special, baby. I mean, he is just a guy who is always live to hit you with a brick. And like, the problem for Renato Moicano, in my opinion, at this stage of his career, is I don't think he can get hit with a brick. So is he going to, take him down the whole fight? I mean, possible. Is he going to deal from outside on the whole fight? I think also possible. But I just think he has to manage his margins very close in this fight. So at the minus 130, maybe a 60% indication I could get behind. But now it's steaming out. It's like 65%. If it continues to go further, then I do have to think it's a dog or pass situation based on what we know, right? Moicano can have a clear path to victory. He has multiple paths to victory, but is he going to be reliable to take them? Is he going to be reliable to follow the path I need? That's where I would get just a minor, nervousness, right? And you guys are sitting pretty, right? You're in a good position. You could, you have options, right? When you're sitting on a line with CLV. But I didn't bet it there. So now I have to just look at the market where it is now. And so right now, I could not lay the minus 185 with Moicano personally for the reasons that aforementioned. But I also have never been a Drew Dober guy, right? Like I kind of have thought he's a grappling mark, right? He's somebody that can be caught on the ground. But that Islam fight did give me a little bit more, like he had nothing to offer on the ground. Let's be very clear about that. Islam just cooked into the bone. But that's a different grappling style than somebody who is a club and sub or a finesse style, rear naked choke player. So Moicano's got a lot of very good skills on the ground and always has. But he's also a guy, like you said, balanced skills. He likes to show off that he can fight everywhere. And I do think he's a little bit of an ego guy at times. So when the margin gets smaller, then I think the value is probably gone now. But you guys got ahead of an efficient market. So big blessings. I'm wishing you guys the best, but I feel like this fight probably does end inside the distance more often than not. And I could see Moicano winning it by sub at a pretty high clip. I could see him cracking Drew. Frankly, Terrence McKinney almost beat this guy. I mean, let's be serious, but we've also seen Moicano's been chinned before. Drew Dober's got that nuclear power in his hands. So it seems like a fight that could go either way. I could see both guys winning ITD, but to the point that you made, if the fight goes the distance, Moicano just has more paths to be winning the fight with his grappling, with his jab, with his low kick from distance. So that for me makes him a deserved favorite, but then it's a question of margins.
Yeah, because if this fight goes the distance, it's that Drew Dober didn't land that nuclear left. And is he going to win 2 out of 3 rounds on points? I don't think so. And if you like Dober, you should probably do finish only. Because I think like you so distinctly said, Liam, there's a better chance Moicano's winning the fight if we go to decision. So I just want to say quick shout out to the chat. You guys are awesome. Part of what keeps our community running here. Glimbot, appreciate you. Thanks for joining. Rich, Just Win Baby, also does great content with Mr. Liam Picks Fights and the propagator of the Mush of the Week. Keep tuned. You guys should be following Just Win Baby because this guy's on. Him and Liam are both on fire.
That's killer content to me.
Killer. Grateful dude. We are grateful for you. Yeah, best of luck this weekend. It is great to have fights again. 12 weeks in a row, mind you, right? So let's get after it. I mean, we got UFC 300 on the horizon. All right, so now that we did the main and the co-main, we're getting on to what's our featured event of the main card. We got Randy Rude Boy. Come on, Rude Boy. Boy, can you get enough? Versus Muslim Salikhov, the king of Kung Fu.
Lord.
Good Lord. You didn't know Rihanna was making an appearance on this show.
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, she didn't. It was a horrible TV appearance. But Rude Boy is going to be just as bad as my singing if you don't want to see elder abuse. Because I think we're due for elder abuse in this spot. Now, Muslim Salikhov, if I didn't just see him get outpaced and out-hustled by Nicholas Dalby, and he did what we kind of predicted him to do, but then that's also like the classic overcorrection, right? And then you're like, Randy Brown, minus 250. Am I trying to cause my blood pressure to go above a safe and normal level? So here's my thing. Like, I have to pick Randy Brown. He's the bigger guy, the better athlete at this juncture. He has the better grappling. We've seen Salikhov lose by every type of method, one decision, one submission, one knockout in his career. And I think we could see Randy Brown break out the submission boots, get his wrestling shoes on here, and avoid the trouble, because in the counter game, Muslim still got it, baby. It's just if you pressure him up along the cage, you clinch him, you start breathing really aggressively out of your mouth like Nicholas Dalby, it can be a little off-putting. So I don't blame him for that one necessarily, but I'm not running to place Randy at minus 250. It's like, but there's 3 fighters on this card where I feel like they should win. And if you want to have a parlay that's absolutely disgusting with 0 line value, you got to make Randy Brown the Grandma's Couch Cushion parlay special.
No, don't throw Grandma's Couch Cushion in that.
No, we shouldn't. Is this I did so much work this week and I need to have a bet on every card parlay?
Yes, this is the absolute degen. Don't recommend this to anybody. Don't even tell anybody you put it together type parlay.
Fair enough. Yeah. But we'll keep this one on Bet365 where it doesn't track on Pickett. That's what I'll tell you.
Oh my God. Well, I hope they do fix that. They said the integration's been coming for 600 years.
I'm just saying I need it, and I need it now because Bet MMA. I mean, we're not doing too bad, honestly. As a collaborative, we're like break even all the time. So
terrible. Anyway,
as a group though, that's not crazy. Like we're doing our best out here. So hey, we're not losing you money, all right, Guru? What do you got?
We're not losing money. That's the idea. Listen, Randy Brown is just Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I mean, yeah,
Elder
blah
abuse
blah blah.
incoming.
It's very possible that elder abuse could be coming. I'm just not sure where Muslim is in his career right now at 39 years old. Right, his durability is not where it used to be. His speed is not where it used to be. His reaction time is not where it used to be. Right, all the things that come with age. Randy Brown, however, is just a decisionator to his core. He loves it. He decisionating Turman, decisionating Trinaldo, decisionating Williams. I mean, it's just decision after decision. And he's really been on the receiving end of bigger finishes via Jack Della Maddalena and my favorite one ever, the Nico Price finish from bottom, has always been one of my favorite knockouts of all time. But yeah, I just kind of expect Randy Brown to be better where Muslim Salikhov is supposed to be best. So that's going to be problematic. Randy's going to have a huge reach advantage, which he knows how to use, and he's going to use it well. Yeah, Randy in over 1.5, but I don't know. Muslim might be just showing up for one last paycheck and and not coming back again. So I don't mind an inside the distance, like Rich is saying. Or even like TB is saying, just throwing Randy in a degen parlay that should never exist in the first place. So lines dictate what we do, and I don't love the line. So Liam, what do you got?
I'll just say right off the rip, I hate betting on rebooked fights. I always have. So with that caveat aside, I think that this is a spot where Randy Brown should win the fight. You know, he's done a lot of hard assignments for the UFC. You look at Muslim Salikhov, he's been match made pretty soft along the way, humbly speaking. And when he fought tough guys, he normally lost those fights, except Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, very close split decision. But another age contemporary, right? A guy who's a little bit older, a little bit longer in the tooth, maybe doesn't have 15 hard minutes to push himself. So he kind of had to rely on those first 10 minutes. And when you look at this fight, you know, Randy goes out there, he gets finished by really good up-and-coming contenders in the division. I do think his chin is a liability. If Muslim wins this fight, he's probably clipping Randy. He's just not very durable, right? And it's a professional cage fight at the end of the day. Muslim is a primary striker, king of Kung Fu. He's going to try and punch you in the face. He's going to try and kick you in the head and the body. So, you know, he does have weapons. He has offense. But I agree with Rich. He does look washed. He does look slow. He does look like a guy who, you know, he's trying to do things right. He's training in Vegas for 6 weeks. Randy was the one who was sick, actually, and pulled out of the last fight. So another just small intangible there. But I feel like Randy, 6 weeks to recover. I mean, he should be fine. Cardio should probably be up to snuff. And frankly, I don't trust Muslim Salikhov on the ground. I don't trust him necessarily on the feet either. I picked the leech against him and bet 10 units on the leech at plus 150 because I thought it was one of the most insane betting lines I've ever seen. And what happened in that fight, right? He kind of got cleaned up accordingly. Younger guy, bigger power, was able to find the chin, connect, and that was that. So I kind of see it the same way here. Randy could get, you know, colossally owned. I would never lay minus 250 on Randy Brown personally, but he actually has produced as a favorite. So it feels more gross than it is. He's done the job according to the trend, but so is Muslim Salikhov. He's been an underdog one time in the UFC. He's 1-0 as a dog. So he's most of the time expected to go out there and win. He's actually fumbled the bag as a favorite sometimes in the UFC. But at 39 years of age, no surprise that you're going to start being an underdog in more UFC fights, right? Just by standard definition, 39-year-olds are underdogs to the average UFC fighter by a standard deviation. So take that for whatever it's worth. But I'll take Randy. I think he probably finishes here, and I'll leave it at that because I haven't bet anything yet.
Fair enough, but I love the analysis, and I agree, man. It really is just. Do you think a fighter is ever worth X line, regardless of the competition? Just because, you know, who else has been knocked out by like Guru said, the hammer fist from bottom by Nico? Like he's been
legendary.
In some of those really
one of my favorite
positions.
Knockouts of all time.
They don't call
exactly.
me a guru
So it's
for
like,
nothing.
Just saying. This is why we pay him his salary. It's like carrots and.
So
and
what
broccoli.
you're saying
That's
is
basically
Muslim Salikhov by guard hammer fist?
I love it.
Yes,
that's what you're saying.
That's the prediction. Can I get a line on it?
Honestly, what would be way funnier would be the Muslim Salikhov Karate Kid crane kick knockout, like just Vitor Belfort style, but in air. Give me that. That's what
I don't
want.
know if Maksum can suspend himself in the air.
No, he's going to have a broken hip after he did it. He's hurt too. He's hurt too, but he's going to win. Crane kick knockout. It's coming.
There's a picture out there. I mean, I need to see this guy's real birth certificate from, you know, he's at least 53 years old. At least. Yeah, 65 is probably more right, Guru. Like there has to be some type of error in how they printed his birth certificate, and I need to get to the bottom of this. So I'm going to talk to Andrei Arlovsky. We're going to get this figured out in, like, you know, wherever in Dagestan that Muslim South came from. So next up, we got Viviane Araujo versus Natalia Silva. I didn't want to give her a nickname. I don't know why. I couldn't come up with a good one. So
she's awesome.
We got plus 270 on the Araujo side and minus 340 on the Silva side. I mean, I get it. Like, we know who the UFC wants to win here. We got the hot, young, upcoming prospect versus, you know, someone that quite hasn't done what they've needed to at the top to distinguish themselves and win the belt, get the title shot, anything like that. And Vivi's got talent. You know, she's got power. She's got the combination. She's Muay Thai. She's got great takedown defense. She's got, you know, grappling offense as well. The ability to change it up and wrestle. So it's like a plus 270. I'm considering it. And then, I don't know. I think just the speed, the cardio, the general takedown defense of Natalia Silva and ability to work in the clinch and turn her opponents out. I think that she's got what it takes here. She's not giving up really any height. She's given up some reach. I think Silva, you know, it could be like a learning lesson. Maybe she gets hurt a little bit. Maybe she loses a round. Maybe it's closer than it should be. And maybe that's why you shouldn't bet minus 340. But if you need to bet Randy Brown at minus 250 and you need to bet Natalia Silva at minus 340 and you just need to do it, then I would say put them together with one more person on the card. And if anything, I could say, like, maybe Natalia Silva, you know, by decision here. Or the fight to be, you know, like, how much do you really want to waste your money? But a sketchy split? Could that be in the cards here? I just think Silva wins. And I think either just avoiding the fight altogether because the line just isn't good enough, that's probably the right move. But we're degenerates here. We're trying to give you, you know, a little action, a little here and there. So take my ideas with a grain of salt. Guru, you got anything more convictive on this fight?
Honestly, I wish I did. This is just something I want absolutely no. I don't want any piece of this. The fight is completely priced out. Viviane Araujo is a fighter that is just right. We thought she was at the end of her rope versus Jennifer Maia. It turns out she just had a little bit more rope left in her than Jennifer Maia. It's just there's really nothing that impressive here. And you know, she's just mediocre. She's good enough everywhere, right? And somebody like Natalia Silva has all the explosive it factors that you're looking for. It's just nothing that I'm really interested in. The over is juiced. Natalia Silva is juiced, and I'm not even necessarily convinced that Araujo gets finished because she's somebody that's shown a high level of durability throughout her career, if nothing else. So, yeah, it's just not on a fight with 13 fights, and I'm just good. If I have to skip one, you know what I mean? That this is the one. So I'll take a break here. I don't know if Liam's got something spicy though. You know I'll dig into the couch cushions. I just feel like we're priced out. What do you got, Liam?
Yeah, I think Natalia Silva is going to win the fight. You know, when I look at it, I like Vivi. You know, I've actually never lost, I don't think, on a Vivi bet, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back and double check that. But I've definitely cashed on her before. I think I cashed on her small against Jennifer Maia last time out. And when you look at this fight on paper, I say to myself, man, you know, Vivi is like Natalia Silva like 10 years from now, right? Like, you know, she's just been around for too long. She's 37 years of age, and
Look
in
at
my view, she's got
the same.
well, dude, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, what I think that she is being brought in to replace Viviane Araujo, right?
Incredible.
Like, I think she is literally like if you were recasting a TV show, you would have her come in and then you'd write her off the TV show, right? And
They could be sisters. That's fucking hysterical. How did I
that's
not
the way
notice
I
that?
see it, man. And I say that, it doesn't mean like, hey, that because this one girl's more marketable or she's younger, she's going to get the win. I mean, obviously not. But now let's talk about the skills. I mean, one of my biggest betting regrets of all time, I've been doing this for a while, not betting her at plus 200 against Jasmine Jasudavicius. I talked about the fact that I thought she was going to win. I predicted her to win, but we didn't have that data point, right? She hadn't fought since 2019. But when you're betting plus 200 underdogs, sometimes that's what you need is, a lack of information, right? It could benefit you in this case, because now what happens? She's minus 340 in all these fights, right? Just like when Tatsuro Taira was not a very known guy, when he was just a prelim guy, he's on the first, second fight of the night. I'm betting 10 units at minus 200, and now he's minus 1,000, minus 600, minus 750. You got to bet the lines before they're gone on some of these fighters. And it's the same thing with Shavkat, used to be minus 250 against bums. Now he's minus 250 against top 10 guys. It's like, you just have to think about these things as long-term commodities. And when I'm thinking about this, I say to myself, I think Silva could finish this fight by any means, right? Like, I think that Vivi is a good fighter, but I also think that not a lot of women have finishing upside. I don't think that many women are that violent and aggressive. And I think Natalia Silva can be those things. I think she's a nice girl that turns it on when she gets in the cage. I think she could spinning head kick you. I think she can kick you in the body. I think she could punch you right in the face. But moreover, I think she could probably just outlast her opponent here, outwork her, work harder for 15 minutes. And when you start to get exhausted in a cage fight, the worst thing that could happen is the other person just has more gas to keep going, to keep pushing, to not only continue at the pace you were at, but to turn that volume up a little bit. And that's what I see from Natalia Silva taking over this fight as it goes, forcing Vivi to use a lot of strength and a lot of her physicality early in the fight. And that's a reserve that runs out quick. So I just think Natalia Silva, younger, fresher version of a similar fighter. And I think she's the right archetype to go out there and paint her up on the feet. Potentially stuff the takedowns, get her own, and win the fight. So give me Natalia Silva to get the job done here.
Absolutely. And if I wasn't clear because I didn't necessarily do much in terms of a breakdown, I absolutely like Natalia Silva in the spot. It was really just trying for me from at least a betting perspective. Is there a way to truly feel really comfortable about whether we're betting a finish or which type of finish? But that's where I kind of felt more a little ambivalent.
So the one thing I'll say is just that, Vivi hasn't been finished very often, right? She's fought very high quality competition. And it's plus 200 or whatever for her to win inside the distance. That's almost revelatory to me. That almost speaks volumes to me. So I might be looking that way. I do think a lot of people are going to buy into the decision. I think that's going to be the most logical, simple, with all due respect, square outcome. And it could happen, right? Squares get paid a lot, but they don't get paid every time. And they're betting it at chalk more often than not. And I do think this is one where they could get burnt because age regression is a real thing. And when you're 37 years of age, you maybe can't take the same punch that you could at 35 or the same punch that you could at 33 or the same punch that you could at 29. So for me, I think that Rich is spot on here. I just think that there's some finishing possibility for Silva on the feet as well as on the ground.
I actually, and I love that we're diving into this, and this is why the show is called Chronic Combat Conversation, because I want to have a conversation about it. When you look at it, Silva has her two finishes where? In the apex versus Bleda and Leonardo. And when you look at Viviane Araujo's losses, she's losing to who? Jessica I by decision, Chikagian by decision, Grasso by decision. These are decisionators. These are people like you said, Liam, just a few moments ago, people that don't have a lot of finishing upside. Amanda Hebos, just had a fucking amazing spinning wheel kick, but generally speaking, she wasn't even submitting people, and she's supposed to be a jiu-jitsu expert. So I think in a smaller cage, it absolutely plays towards at least certainly closer towards a finish as well. I love what Rich said about takedowns and getting it on the ground. And Silva's just not a lay-in player. She wants to be violent. So, hell yeah. I like a little degen action there to get just cheer for one, right?
Just a little something.
Rip her arm, get it.
You gotta fight. All right. So, anyways, we got Aliaskhab Khizriev, Black Wolf, versus Makhmud Muradov. The the Floyd Mayweather product himself, money team, right? Or whatever he signed with. I think he's got some affiliation. Anyways, we got Khizriev coming in as the minus 162. Muradov now down to plus 136. This line opened a bit wider, and I think this one could get interesting. Now, I mean, just look at the physiques. Now, we've seen Muradov gas out before. The GM3 fight was as unideal as it gets, but you think these guys don't know when they're a minus 500 favorite and have knocked down their opponent like 4 times and still can't get the finish? I mean, it's sketchy. It's still sketchy, but I can at least understand that, hey, this guy also went to decision grappling for 15 minutes with Kyle Bahalia. So I don't think it's necessarily every time he gets extended, we have a gas tank issue. Whereas, like, seeing Khizriev in round 2 against, come on, Dennis Tululin. Man, I think if that fight keeps going just a little bit longer, we could get into some real interesting territory with the Russian cab driver. But in this fight, you've got a real technical striker and a very well-rounded fighter overall in Muradov. Now, he gave up these guillotine choke reversals to Kyle Bahalia, but Muradov is able to land a lot of his own takedowns. I mean, how many does he land against Brian Barberena? So the dude's no idiot. Like, he's going to fight where it's more advantageous for him to fight. I think he's got enough takedown defense to make it work here. And even if he does get taken down early, I don't think he's getting subbed early. I think the fatigue and kind of shock factor of the GM3 fight, I can write that one off for this matchup. Now, Khizriev, he is talented. He has shown the ability to get some chain takedowns, take the back. He's like an okay striker. I don't think he's anything special. So I think Muradov is the more well-rounded fighter, and I'm getting plus money. I'm going to take a shot. It's not the best bet or anything, but it's like the Dolidze idea. I think I'm getting the better athlete, the bigger guy, and who might cause the more damage and could do more damage in more situations. What do you got, Guru?
It just seems like Khizriev is just kind of set up perfectly to be this for like the boy that cried wolf, more like, not the black wolf, like just fraudulent.
Whoa.
What?
That was great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily realize it per se at first, but when you actually look at it, not only is the Russian talent he's fighting on M1 and Fight Night Globals, not only is he fighting trash cans upon trash cans, but he's doing it all at welterweight. Then he finds his way up to middleweight. They give him Henrique Shigemoto. Come on, man. He chokes him out in 50 seconds, another can, and then he gets a chance versus Dennis Tululin as a minus 1450 favorite, whatever the hell.
Come on, Dennis Tululin.
And he goes to, he gets into a backstreet brawl with Dennis Tululin, finally gets him down, struggles to get him down after a while, and Dennis does not have great takedown defense. I think Muradov could be getting overlooked here because, his takedown defense, while not great, is like athletic and he fights pretty hard. And, that Kyle Bahalia fight was really weird. Kyle Bahalia is like a fade against the right person. Holy mackerel, is he low IQ. Somebody like Liam will always tell you position over submission, right? You got to make sure you maintain that shit. And all he's doing is he's fucking looking for a rear naked choke, not real guillotines, and he's getting reversed and Muradov ends up on top. But at least that's smart of Muradov to be able to sweep and be able to do that. So I like him. No, I like him to be able to keep the fight standing, and I like him to have the better striking because I think Khizriev is going to trust his striking a little too much. One more piece that I'll say is that Khizriev's training at ATT now, and the thing about ATT that I've seen lately, and maybe Liam can speak to something like this as well. I just feel like while they were like a highly revered gym for a long time, I feel like right now you're seeing a certain class of athlete come out of there. Sure, you're getting a lot of training partners and a lot of good looks that way, but you've seen now Renato Fakhretdinov and Myra Buena Silva, two that come off the top of my head, that train out of there, and their cardios were it just wasn't there. So in a fight where Khizriev's going to need his cardio, I don't expect it to be there. I think it's a gym problem. So give me Muradov at dog price because Khizriev hasn't proven shit to me.
Fair play, man. You know, I don't know what to make of this fight. When I look at it on paper, I say to myself, man, you know, Khizriev didn't look great in this last fight, but he's been very inactive. Some of that is his own doing. Some of that is other people pulling out of the fights with him, you know. Doesn't have a huge name, so probably not a guy that a lot of people want to sign the dotted line against, right? He's a tough, awkward style matchup, going to make you look bad if he wins. And so you look at that and you say, man, you know, does he have a clear path to victory here? I mean, yeah, Muradov's been out grappled before, but it's not easy, right? Like Caio Bravo, you mentioned, he's a guy I rate. You know, I actually think that Caio Bravo is a tough out for most middleweights, right? He's tough, he's big, he's strong, he's not afraid to get hit. He's not the biggest hitter in the world, but he knows how he wins fights. He knows where his bread is buttered, and it's with the grappling, right? And so maybe you can't finish every submission, but you got to threaten people, or else your grappling's looked at as ineffective, right? Then you're just holding on. Then you're clinging. You don't have any submission attempts. You don't have any damage. So I think Caio tried to be a little aggressive in that fight and paid the price against an athlete. You know, like he made a couple of aggressive choices that Muradov was able to capitalize on. But I also think that shows growth from Muradov. Because you look in the past, like this guy has just not always produced over 15 minutes. He has taken a long time to get guys out of there that you felt like, man, he should have a huge advantage against this guy, but it's taken him the full 15 minutes, or it's taken him, 12 out of the 15 minutes to get him out of there. But now we're seeing Muradov do a lot better in unfavorable stylistic matchups, doing a better job working his way back up to his feet, for example, getting the reversals that you talked about. But he's just still a work in progress, right? And he's a little bit older. Yeah, he's not a young guy, but neither is Khizriev. And this is another spot where it's like, I expected Khizriev to be like 28. And, it's like the Moicano and Dober fight. Man, these guys are the same age, practically. And that's how I feel about this, Is Khizriev a deserved favorite? Yeah, maybe arguably small because he's got a clear path to victory, but should he be, minus 185, whatever it is, against a guy like Muradov, who's going to be way bigger, who's got more experience on the feet? And let's just call a spade a spade. He's the more marketable entity. Like if you just look, Muradov has 2.1 million Instagram followers. He's the biggest social media star on the card. So there's definitely a lot of reasons to say, hey, this line's a little bit skeptical to me. And I think Khizriev can win. He's undefeated for a reason, right? He finds ways to win. But yep, absolutely. I think that this is a spot where Khizriev is, well regarded because he's got the undefeated record. But we've seen undefeated records don't always translate, to the UFC. And frankly, is Dennis Dolidian a UFC level win? I mean, that's arguable at this point.
That's all great points. I'm glad we all align here. It just seems like a beautiful opportunity.
I was about to say, I'm glad I beat the line movement again, right? I got it in plus 150. Not too much though, but I'll take a couple cents.
Couple shekels here and there,
Hey, couple shekels, you know what I'm saying? We'll take that any day of the week. We've hit that. We've hit that time, huh? We're going from main card to prelims.
That's it. We're making the switch. So listen, I appreciate you, Rich. I appreciate you, Glenbop, but I need some of my other consistent friends out here telling me their best bets in the chat. Please, I know we've already gotten at least a couple new subscribers tonight during this live stream. If you're a new subscriber, let us know your favorite bet recently this year. What's your biggest dog you've cashed on? What's your best bet for this card? We want to know. We're going to bring it up. Really appreciate all you guys in the community. And as always free. And we bring on the best guests, man. We got Liam Picks Fights. Does it get better than this? So let's move it on here. We got the RGV bad boy, Gilbert Urbina versus Chuck Buffalo, Charles Radtke. All right, I'm not going to bring it up yet. But anyways, we got minus 205 on Urbina, and we got plus 170 on Chuck Buffalo. This is another spot where you got to listen to me being a little wiener head saying I beat line movement, but I post it when I do it. So I give you the opportunity to follow me. That's the key. But Gilbert Urbina here, I mean, listen, as Guru said, this is what dreams are made of. Guru, can you take it away from here?
Take me away.
Take me away.
That's it. Special play.
You messed it up. Just go ahead. What do you got?
I'm pulling it up.
Oh, my word.
I'm pulling it up. Urbina not only has a 5-inch height advantage, but he has a 3-inch reach advantage. He is 9 years younger. He has a cardio advantage. He has a pace advantage. I think he's got the grappling advantage. Only problem is are you gonna come shit in the apple pie here? Are you gonna come fuck it up? I mean, I really like his skill set, man. He's somebody that's come out of not Dana White Contender Series. He came out of Tough, and he's made improvements fight to fight, right? So I'm right from Brian Battle to Ryan Cosey. I thought he made major improvements. Obviously, Ryan Cosey's as bottom barrel as it gets, but where is Chuck Buffalo after looking absolutely horrendous against Mike Mathitha? Who? Blood Diamond. Yes, Blood Diamond. Exactly. This show does feel like a fresher breath.
It's Uncle June, baby. Leave it to Uncle June. Like a breath of fresh air. No. Here's the thing. We're the funny show on Wednesdays, and they're the funnier show on Thursdays. I love Happy Hour with Lou Beccia and Monk Maddox. I guess that's how you would say it, right? But whatever. But yeah, we are a fucking breath of fresh air. Thank you, Uncle June, for letting the people know.
That's what I think. I like Urbina here. I kind of like him to get the finish. I don't really trust Radtke's cardio. And I think Urbina comes with a certain pace and pressure that Radtke's not necessarily going to be able to handle. And he hasn't shown great takedown defense per se and great defensive grappling. So I'm looking for Urbina to take advantage there. So give me a little RGV bad boy. I don't like that nickname.
Bad boy. What you gonna do?
What do you got, Liam?
Hate this fight. Probably won't bet it. Was not impressed by Chuck Buffalo last time out. Never really been super impressed by Gilbert either. I think both guys have, clear flaws, right? Like I think both of them are kind of hittable. I think both of them can be hurt, rocked, wobbled. And when you're looking at somebody at a big chalk price, not something I love to see, right? I want my guy to be durable. I want him to be able to walk through the fire. And we've definitely seen Urbina's chin tested on a number of occasions. Now, when you look at Chuck Buffalo, he had a pretty easy layup last time out, but the circumstances weren't super simple and straightforward. Went out there, did what he needed to get the win, fought ugly, found a way to get it done. But I just don't rate his level of competition prior. I do think, Raheem Forrest might even be a better win than Mike Mathitha. But when you look, I just think coming out of CFFC, pretty solid scene. Not a guy I want to overlook here. It just seems to me like this fight could go either way. It's pretty low level, frankly, for the UFC. So that's my overall read on this fight, is that I don't have a strong thought. It's curious to see the under is so heavily juiced here as well. Urbina could probably take his back and finish him. But if that doesn't happen, I just worry about his chin. I worry about Chuck Buffalo kind of finding ways to win these fights and like snatch victories. And he just seems like a guy who's very opportunistic. And Gilbert Urbina seems like a guy who gives his opponents opportunities. So at -205, not something that I love price-wise, but I understand why he's favored, right? A little bit more relevant experience against high-level fighters.
Yeah. I figured there was this spot and another one on the card where I felt the line was a little bit more appropriate than, some of the -250, -340s that we've seen. So at -180, I was happy to put Urbina in a 2-leg parlay for minimal exposure to get a little plus money on another fight where I think the guy should win, but, is it really worth laying the juice? Well, I'm going to do it anyways. So the RGV bad boy, I think he's got this. And, at the risk of getting canceled, we're just not going to talk about Chuck Buffalo's post-fight interview in the octagon. Who drops the F-bomb these days?
Back to back. It was back to back.
Bro, it was crazy. Like this guy,
Manel Kopp, and then Chuck Buffalo.
Crazy. Like
it's so funny.
What are you doing, bro? Anyways, all right. We're moving on. See, I wouldn't call you that, but Chuck Buffalo might. So be careful of the F-bomb. Anyways, Molly Meatball McCann versus Diana, the Warrior Princess Belbita.
You should have made her nickname. You should have just named her Diana Van Camp. That would have been funnier.
Would it have been funnier?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't laugh, but I don't.
She's like a woman, and did she marry him? Like
no, but they're dating, and it's funny.
Yeah, but is it really funny?
I don't know.
I don't think
it's
so.
It's news.
I think what's going to be hilarious is when Molly Meatball McCann starts making fucking meatball parm subs on Diana Belbita's back as she goes and taps her out.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. She worked at Subway. Eat fresh. But Molly McCann here, I mean, listen, in their first matchup, it ended up being what, quote unquote, somewhat close. What it's a split decision. But was it really, when you go back, was it really? I think Molly she has more impact on her strikes. I think she's been improving her striking game. What I don't think she had been improving was her defensive grappling, but she's not facing a wrestler or grappler. And she's actually been going out competing in tournaments, putting on the gi, putting in the work on the mat, and trying to prove a point here. I think she comes out here, gets the most disgusting, submission that you've ever seen. But I think it's live. I don't know what the line is because DraftKings are a bunch of hoes. But I can tell you minus 278, Molly McCann would be the third leg of the most degenerate parlay you've ever placed with Randy Brown and Natalia Silva. So 2 women's MMA minus 250 or graders, and then Randy Rude Boy Brown, Mr. Touch and Go himself. Do you feel like touching the sketchiest 3-leg parlay ever? Because I do, and maybe it'll get half.
I do. I love it. I love it. No, we're gonna put the house on this one. I love it. Yeah, I'm not. Diane Belbita just kind of throws caution to the wind in terms of her style, right? She just wants to march forward, blitz forward, solid, just throw those 1-2s. And I mean, she's got a decent body lock takedown, but I just think that she gets overzealous. And somebody like Molly McCann, right? Unless you're submitting her, there's just not really too much of danger there. I think she's really difficult for anybody to handle on the feet, especially unless you have some major size advantage on her. And I just don't think that Belbita is somebody that even uses her size advantage very well. So if she was somebody that actually kept her range, maybe, but she's just such a she wants to come in close, and it's the exact opposite of what she needs to do here. So give me Molly, and hey, why not? I love a little degen couch cushion sub play just to prove a point, because she really shit the bed last time.
What's a confidence booster? Is this like an odds boost on the sportsbook Limbot? Should we be avoiding?
I don't know.
I think what he means is that she's showing a win on her Tapology via submission, which was not in the UFC, right? It was at a grappling event. And I think what he's saying is that was a confidence booster for her. And I agree with him, because if you look, that girl that she fought has been submitted every time she's fought, according to Tapology. So
what do you mean she don't know how to sub? Rich, she's Molly Meatball sub. Come on, man.
She worked at Subway. That's the most egregious thing you've ever said, Rich. She knows how to sub. Does she know how to get a submission? I don't know. So maybe you're right about that, but she knows how to sub. Okay.
Hysterical.
Sorry, Liam. Let's
no worries, guys. Here's what I got on this one. I would never play Molly McCann minus 278. She could be fighting, my lunch lady or something. I'd be like,
yeah,
let's not get too aggressive here, right? But when we're talking about the Diana Belbita side, don't love her game. I don't love that she's kind of noodly. Just doesn't seem like she's very physical and athletic. So I think that Molly could probably just take her down, beat her up. Fact that the last one went to decision. What I would be interested in betting is fight not to go the distance here, potentially. Let me look at the price on that, because that's just literally off the top of my head. So fight not to go the distance is like almost 2-1. I mean, yeah, that's probably where I'd look, because if Molly McCann has just like fallen off the edge of the earth and just doesn't want to be out there, then maybe she just goes out there and gets bum rushed and just covering up or whatever. I don't see that, right? I just see more often than not, probably just going to be a little bit higher level. So for me, money line, it's a dogger pass situation, because like I said, I don't trust Molly McCann minus 300 against, my local dog catcher, but against Diana Belbita here, I understand why she's favored. They don't want to write every ticket on Molly McCann. They want to get you on the other side as well. So fair play, but I'd be more interested in the under at a similar price. Try and get, somebody to make a critical error. It's WMMA, anything's possible. And so I think neither one of these ladies is so good on the ground that they can't make a critical error and get finished, right? And if that's the case, that gives them some finish equity. Molly McCann, the queen of the random round 3 spinning elbow knockout. I mean, fair play. Let's just hope for some violence here.
I love it. Might as well. We're trying to find some plays, even if there's not a fight you're most confident on. We got to have action down the card here. But gamble responsibly. We've got Azat Kazakh Maksum versus Charles Energy Johnson. But before we get into that, physicality. Oh yeah. Ooh, that could be very spicy parlay. This is why you got to follow Just Win, baby. He's got the great props. Minus 205 on Azat Maksum, plus 170 on Charles Johnson. I hate to be that guy, but I told you guys to parlay Urbina and Maksum each at minus 180. Now they're each at minus 205. I mean, you can still do it. But it's not, this isn't like, I'm not betting them straight up for multiple units. However, in each of their matchups, I think they're getting the tailor-made opponent, and Azat Maksum getting a guy that will give up the takedown. In his UFC debut, I wanted to really shit on him for going to a split decision with Tyson Nam. But there's a couple things I learned in that fight. One, he can take a strike. Two, he was a little bit of a headhunter in that matchup, but I could see he could take a calf kick. He can have it kind of affect him, but still fight through it. Three, I don't see him overcommitting to takedowns when he doesn't have a good entry, kind of conserving a little bit of cardio on that. And three, I like his in and out movement, kind of his feints, switching of stances, and the pressure he applies, and then just unloading in the pocket, really giving Nam some issues up top, hurting him multiple times, flying, jumping knees, but done in like a reasonable way. I don't think he really, I know it ends up being a close fight, but Tyson Nam is a really tough matchup for a UFC debut. I mean, if you're not mentally focused for the entire 15 minutes, you're probably waking up from some smelling salts from the doctor. And he gets landed on, the stepping in, landing the kicks that Tyson Nam is able to kind of trip up Maksum. I don't think Charles Johnson really has that same timing or ability to kind of dictate pace with his kicks. It's not the same snap. And Charles Johnson, when has he ever really like dictated pace unless it's round 3, 4, 5? Like he's a 5-round fighter. This is another 3-round matchup against a guy willing to throw 11 takedown attempts out there. I got to think that Maksum is at least landing a few. And even if Johnson shows more urgency, even if he is trying to get up, I think they're kind of even from distance. I think Maksum's got more finishing power. I think Maksum's just the better fighter. I had Urbina and Maksum parlayed. Do with it what you will. Charles Johnson, just about impossible to finish. I wouldn't recommend Maksum inside the distance. And that's why minus 205 really is the line really correct for a guy that you don't expect to necessarily find a finish here. But I think he's got Johnson covered in every which way. And I felt good enough to lay the 2-unit parlay on my 2 most confident favorites on the card in Maksum and Urbina.
First off, I was really happy to see our boy Nate Maness. I hope he's okay. I think it was an injury, but he withdrew. So I was happy to see Nate Maness not take this matchup because I don't want Nate Maness fighting a really good grappler. But who steps in? Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson, who struggles to defend and get up from right. He struggles to defend takedowns, but he keeps getting up. Bring on somebody like Azat, who's going to keep coming with takedowns. Like TV said, I thought he did a great job in the Tyson Nam fight, deciding like when to save his energy and when to go for it. And I just like him to get him done here because you've seen Charles Johnson. He absolutely should have beat Estevam. It's so low fight IQ. It's so bad. I mean, this is your livelihood. This is what you spend your life doing. And to just give up the takedowns and not find your way to your feet. I mean, he landed, 57 significant strikes in the entire fight, and he landed 39 of them in round 3. Like, what the fuck are you doing, man? You have to keep it on the feet like your life depended on it. And I just feel like somebody like Azat is gonna just eat him alive in that respect. You watch the Tyson Nam fight, and while it's a split decision, maybe I have to rewatch it again. Because, I just felt like he was in control the entire time. Like, there was really never a point when he was in danger. I mean, I get a 29-28 because he really doesn't land many strikes at all in round 3. But I don't even think it was about, being tired as much it was about just being patient. And obviously maybe too patient. Lack of activity is never good. But I just thought that he's a very solid fighter. He was one of our fighters to look forward to on our year in review pod. And I think he's somebody that fits right along in the top 15 snugly right now. And I think this is a perfect fight to get him here, right? What Tyson Nam versus Charles Johnson to me is a great fight. Book that fight. Like, to me, this is a similar, like, obviously different skill set, but a lateral move in competition to me, but maybe a little bit more name value, gets him a little closer to where I think he does belong in this top 15. So give me Azat. I love our parlay. What could possibly go wrong, right? Liam, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm not a Charles Johnson guy. It's just not how I get down. I like Kazakh guys. I like undefeated Kazakhs coming in with good skills, right? And that's what I see from this guy Azat Maksum. Now, am I a parlay guy? If y'all have watched my show before, that's not me. Everybody does their own thing, right? There's many ways to make money in this business. So I focus on my strengths. I'm good at picking submission props. I focus there, things like that. Whereas maybe I'm not so good at picking who's going to win between one flyweight and another at -200. So unless it's Tatsuro Taira and I feel conviction out the ass, I'm just going to leave it alone most of the time. So in this fight, gut feeling, Azat Maksum is going to win the fight. Why? It's Charles Johnson. I think that Charles Johnson gives fights away. I think that we know we have a guy in Charles Johnson who, what? Interesting question as well. So let's address this, right? Jin on the chat says, hi, protect your neck regular here. Yo, I just want to say, as well as I answer this question, shout out to Dan Tom, shout out to Protect Your Neck. One of my favorite analysts in the absolute game, always has been my favorite analyst. So huge fan of Dan and his work and really appreciate the kind words and the support. But to answer your question specifically, the reason I don't love parlays is because it's hard to get one thing right. So to get two things right, it's harder, right? It just, if you think about it as something that simple, that's the way that I approach it. Now, does that mean that there's never a reason to parlay? No, I'm profitable lifetime betting on parlays, but it's because I'm very selective. I do it infrequently. Viviane Araujo, I parlayed her against Roxanne Modafferi, right? Like there's been a handful of occasions, but most of the time, the way I approach it is if there's value, then there's value. I'll bet it straight. I'll find a prop that I like. But if there's not value, if I don't feel compelled, I'll let it go. I'm happy to not bet on every fight on the card if it means that I didn't have an edge there. But I always will look for an edge. So in this case, the problem I have is Charles Johnson's pretty damn consistent. What do I mean by that? He's consistent to go out there, not get finished, make it a difficult fight for the opponent, and lose. Like, is that a great betting spot? Like, is there a tremendous amount of value there? Maybe there is. I don't see it. So I'm going to leave this one alone. If I was to bet anything on this, maybe a contrarian under, something like that. Hope that Charles shows up, not ready to compete. Hope that Azat stubs his toe, whatever. But I don't even believe in that. So flyweight unders, profitable. Something I bet long term. But in this spot, I'm probably just letting this fight pass me by.
I like that. Appreciate the PYN crew coming through strong. Jin Karasu. Also, Mr. Ryu Sozun Truesdale. What's good? Isn't this normally a Wednesday show? Great question. Yes, it is. However, to get the amazing Liam Picks fights, we were willing to make it happen. And honestly, I have days off on Tuesday, so I was more than happy to accommodate here as the guru asked me. So, Liam is a very cool and genuinely good person. So I would agree. Dan, Tom, also very good people. And yes, very well reasoned, Liam. Be safe with what you're parlaying and choose your spots. But yeah, I think we broke the hell out of this fight down. So we're moving on. We got Allen Iverson. Themba the Answer Gorimbo, stealing Allen Iverson's nickname. How dare you? You're the answer now? I don't like it. You don't have the smoothest crossover in the game. But then we got Pistol Pete Maravich. Pete Dead Game Rodriguez. So is this a basketball matchup or is this an MMA fight? I'm going Pistol Pete, baby. We're going crazy here. Now, listen, when The Rock is sponsoring you and you finally got a house, you're training, you've been training with Kobe, living wherever you've been living, bumming,
Florida,
getting free meals. No, I'm saying, like, was he on someone's couch? Was he like, where I don't know exactly where he had to hold up.
Wasn't he living out of the gym, basically?
Exactly. Like, I don't know whose couch he was on, but he was on someone's couch.
Right.
But at the end of the day here, we got a little comfort. We got the rock bottom, saving you from rock bottom. And the question here is like, what did you actually do about the sloppiness in your game? And do you deserve -250? The market already decided that you don't deserve -300 because instead of Pete Rodriguez plus 250, where we put a unit out just to get a nice feeler out there, we're now minus 250 and plus 205. But the question is, like, is that even the right answer? Even if we beat line movement, even if we got plus EV bets, is Pistol Pete Rodriguez really the right bet here? However, looking at the Instagram MMA lab, seeing anybody that trains out of there is working heavy on their grappling. So I got to imagine that we at least have like one level of takedown defense trained. Now, I don't know if we have any cardio. I legitimately have zero answer to that question when it comes to Pistol Pete Rodriguez. We've never seen this guy go the distance before. And we've barely even seen him get to the second round. So Themba Gorimbo here, never. So Themba, can you survive the double revolvers coming back at you? Or are you going to get this fight on the mat where you need it to be? I know he hurts Takashi Sato, but that's not the first time Takashi Sato has been shown, the right hand of doom or the left head kick of death. Like, Takashi's been there before. Pistol Pete, gets pieced up by Jack Della until it's like one of those attritional KOs. So I'll give him a pass. Jack Della, short notice on your debut, but the dude's got fucking hands, man. I really like his striking, and it's just a matter of like, is it really my pick for this fight? Or is it just my heart telling me that Themba Gorimbo should never be minus 250? So I'm going to leave you with some things to consider while the guru tells you what he's got cooking here.
I'm really curious about this fight. It's very exciting. I think one thing we know for sure is that Gorimbo really shouldn't be minus 300 to anybody, right? And that's why we got that plus 250 ticket and we played it out there when we got it. But I just, when I look at Pete Rodriguez, right, just because he's taken out the trash doesn't mean he can't go any further. And just because he's at the wrong weight class fighting a top 15 opponent who's like now looks 3 weight classes bigger than him, right? It's just like, I don't know. I mean, it was just clearly to me, Pete Rodriguez's big problem is he didn't have any head movement, right? This jab of Jack Della Maddalena is crushing him. His nose is all busted up a minute in. Themba Gorimbo has one career knockout. He is not a guy that's going to be punishing you there. And with he wants to get the submission. He's a spam grappler. He's grappling dependent. He needs to get it to the ground. When you watch his fight versus AJ Fletcher, he literally gets hurt on the break with the elbow. Smack. Pete Rodriguez is going to absolutely crush him in the pocket when Themba tries to get close. And if Pete's as good at grappling as we're hoping he is, because he's working at a great gym, then Themba's going to have more trouble than he's looking for. And he's already been, I mean, to me, AJ Fletcher, that was a club and sub, and he's been knocked out before by none other than Gina Mazzani's brother. So take with that what you will. So I love the dog shot on Pete Rodriguez. If I've learned anything from losing chalky bets, I think it's that the line has to dictate what we do. And you can't pay Themba at minus 250. So it's dog or pass or find your prop. So Liam, dog, pass, or find your prop? What do you got?
I got some bad news, gentlemen. I'm a Themba Gorimbo fan. I've DM'd with Themba. I think he's a cool guy. And when you look at Themba, he's a guy that got to the UFC and like has tried to put together a fighting game really quick, right? He then moved to MMA Masters. He started getting his training situation in order. He basically had no resources. He just was good at finding ways to beat people, right? Like if you look at his grappling, it wasn't supremely technical. It was effective, right? He would grab a hold of somebody, choke him. He's got long arms. I always talk about limb length can be very beneficial when you're trying to grab a hold of somebody and choke them, right? It's like if I have really short, stubby arms, that can help me finish once I have a hold of somebody. But to get a hold of somebody, limb length can be very effective. What is the problem for Pete Rodriguez here? And as I see it, he's not very big. He's a very small guy, right? He actually tried to move down to 155 pounds, if you guys remember, botched weight cut. And his win in the UFC is over Mike Jackson. I don't ever want to speak out of turn, right? Like Mike Jackson in an MMA fight could probably beat me, but like pure grappling for grappling, like I'd give myself a chance, right? Like I'm not saying I'd win, but I'm saying like I feel like I could go roll with that guy and do okay. You know, like, and I don't say that about a lot of UFC fighters, right? Most of them would beat me up, but like he just seems like like CM Punk. I'd say the same thing, right? They're like cool guy, right? I'm sure I'd love to have a beer with the guy. Not that he drinks, but you know what I'm saying? Like cool enough guy at the function, but I don't think that CM Punk is like going to blow your hair back. I don't think he would win, 10 rounds at Renzo Gracie Warwick if he had 20 opportunities. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way I feel based on my examination of the footage. Now, when you look at Pete, he's spent a lot of time in the game. He's a guy with a martial arts background. But here's the other thing we got to discuss: the amount of professional experience. The guy hasn't fought. He just hasn't fought very often. So when you go out there and you knock people out in the first round, you got pretty fast hands. You learn that I can knock people out. I'm dangerous. And that's what he's got. That's what he knows about himself. That's what we know about him. But we don't really know much more than that. And I could tell you that Jack Della fight for me was alarming because the defense offered there was null and void. There was no defense. There was non-existent defense, right? He was very confident in his ability to walk him down and throw some shots. So he tried to, and he got battered. Like, if you guys remember, that was a really brutal beatdown. Like, Jack Della went out there against Basel Hafez, who nobody had ever heard of. And how'd that look, right? Like, I thought Basel Hafez was going to give him an honest look, but they went out there and they had a real fight. Pete Rodriguez got absolutely bum rushed and starched. And it was on short notice, and he looked a little bit chubby. So now he's back at 170, where I think he could look a little chubby again. And you could be a little chubby against fucking Mike Jackson. I don't think that's going to work against Themba. I think Themba's the better athlete. And frankly, I thought he was going to knock out Takashi Sato because he told me he was going to. I bet it. He almost knocked out Takashi Sato. And then he got a little bit too one-track mind, in my view, on the sub. He also was sick going into that fight, which he had said after the fact. He said, guys, I was ill. I just tried to make it through this. I didn't want to puke in the octagon. So Themba went out there and found a way to win, right? I think that in this fight, they're trying to set up Themba for a win. His last fight, he was booked in. He was a -3XX favorite. They found another guy that he could be a -3XX favorite against. So do I love the price? No. I mean, God, no. But do I think that people might be surprised if Themba was able to just go out there and tune this guy like an old guitar on the feet because he's way bigger and he's way longer and he's had a couple more professional fights and now he actually has real training partners, real sparring. He's in America. By the way, The Rock's giving you resources. It's like, that's going to change your ability to be on performance enhancing drugs. I mean, let's just be serious, right? This is a profession. So if I could be on performance enhancing drugs, I can move my career forward, right? So these are real considerations that I don't think most people in the space talk about. I'll talk about it. I think Themba's going to win the fight.
God damn it. Yeah. I was thinking like, oh man, I beat the line movement. I got value, but it's like, I just don't think it's the right answer, regardless of beating the market or not. I'm hovering over the cash out button. I already texted Guru about this morning, and Liam was the last person that I needed to bring it on home. Been thinking about this all day. Like, yeah, sometimes you just blindly go out there and throw darts at the line. And when you dig into it, it's like, what do we really know if this fight hits the mat? And Themba, we know what happens in multiple areas of this game. We've seen him go the distance, even when sick. Adversity. God damn it, Liam. Thank you so much. This is why we bring the best of the best on the show, trying to save us $20 at a time, baby. I'm dead ass. I'm cashing it
out. The one thing I want to say is that the God's honest truth is, guys, I will be wrong. I will be right. Like, there will be times when I come on your show and I'm a genius. There'll be times I come on and I'm the town crier and I'm an idiot. So the truth is, I never want to talk anybody off a read, but all I can ever do is give you the truth, honestly, how I feel. And that's the way that I feel here is like, this is a spot where I understand the money line underdog shot, but I think Lucrative sometimes talks about the illusion of value. I think that's a great concept that people should take into account. I think this could turn into one of those situations where it's like, hey, Pete, he's got these skills on the feet. He's got these tools, but he's way smaller. And the other guy gets on top of him fast and the fight's over. And that could be that. And honestly, like if Themba Gorimbo loses this fight, I expect that his next fight, no matter what, will be in the UFC. I don't know that it matters if Pete Rodriguez ever fights in the UFC again. And frankly, guys, I believe he was cut and they gave him this fight on short notice to extend his contract because he had basically been cut for missing weight at the 155. And then they were like, all right, well, we got an opportunity at 170 short notice. Yes or no? Like, you're fired or take this fight. He took the fight. Take that for what it's worth as well.
I appreciate a man of principle. I probably would have taken the house. And I'm going to listen to Liam Pick's fights.
I would take the house. I would take the house, bro. I'd be like, yo, Rocky, you're the best, bro. Run for president. Rock 2024.
Oh, those traps are looking big today, Rocky boy. You think you like Rocky Boy or no?
Probably not. Probably not.
All right,
I wouldn't imagine.
We'll avoid that one in the Rock residence.
Fine. You guys are right. Yeah, you're right. It's
This is not Neil Magny.
Grimbo's a blanket. Grimbo's a blanket. Grimbo's a blanket. It's a problem, and yeah, the last thing you want to do is get in front of Dana White and his friends. So The Rock would definitely be pissed. So they're not going to let that happen.
Yeah. They're like, what is it? Like? They needed a sure thing. They needed Miguel and the hit single from just a few years ago. Oh, he knows it's a sure thing. All right, fair enough. So we got JeongYeong Lee, the Korean Tiger, versus Blake Elani Mao. Bilder, is he of Hispanic descent? Why did he go with Elani Mao? Just trying to understand the exact reasoning. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. This was not a TB nickname. This was Blake Bilder's chosen UFC nickname. But the Korean Tiger coming in, I mean, he's going to have a little bit of height. He's going to have, 2 inches of height, 5 inches of reach. He's going to be the younger fighter. He's coming off the road to the UFC. And, I would say a pretty underwhelming performance. I was a little bit confused. The dude's trying to get like an armbar transition, or maybe a little triangle activity in the future. And instead he's just kicking Julija in the face. Mark Smith, hold on. We got to stop the action. But we're not going to put Julija back in top position after we just make sure if he's okay or not. But, okay, aside from the bad refereeing in that fight, I think JeongYeong Lee is going to be the clearly more explosive striker in this matchup. It's just a question of, does Blake Bilder get to the top control positions? And I think his grappling, I think it's high level. It's just, does he have the wrestling to really get it there? And does he use the clinch enough to wear on JeongYeong Lee? I think we saw Lee kind of go the distance decently well in his last fight. It's just those hips are available. And when he's stepping into a combo versus when he's like, ooh, this guy's about to shoot, it's two very different levels of takedown defense. One where I was like, oh, wow, he's got good hips. He uses the front headlock. And then I'm like, wow, he just gave up the easiest, not even a blast double leg, just like a picking up your girlfriend and putting her on the bed double leg, So JeongYeong Lee, I think if this fight stays standing, he should land the more impactful strikes for at least 2 rounds. I just don't want to have a bet on this fight at all. I think the over 2.5 is solid. Blake Bilder's a tough guy. He's also not the greatest finisher. Let's be real. So over 2.5 minus 115, I think that's a way better bet than betting either of these guys on the side. But I think my pick is Blake Bilder for having the UFC experience, having the minus 250 spot against Kyle Nelson, falling short. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Lee take it. So that's why I'm not going to take the dog shot here. I'll take the over 2.5 shot. What do you got, Guru? What are you going to do?
I got this fight to end by disappointment. At the end of the day, you look at somebody like JeongYeong Lee, and man, that fight versus I don't know, what was the guy's name? Yiza. Yeah, Yiza. I mean, that fight was horrible. And I don't really think that he won. You're going to give it on. I mean, they both landed the same amount of strikes, and the Yiza had 9 minutes of control. I just don't like that type of judging. If you're that smothering, I think you're winning the fight. So, I didn't really take much from that. Like you said, TB, do we think that Blake Bilder is going to put on his wrestling shoes, go out there and put this guy down? I really am hoping that he does. I like Blake Bilder. I'm a big CFFC fan. And, I'm hoping that he does decide to go out there and maybe do the more Shane Young style approach, right? And try 7 takedowns. But in terms of that fight, you watch that he's just non-committal, right? He'll kind of get it. And then as soon as he feels any sense of resistance, he kind of lets go of them. And I'm hoping in this fight he doesn't. Or I guess I hope he faces a little less resistance and gets the takedowns, because he's gonna should have a clear grappling advantage there. I didn't really like anything I saw from Zhang Li. Yeah, I mean, he's explosive and he's got some good power and decent pace, but I don't know. Bilder's a tough guy. He does get rocked in every single one of his fights, so look for him to get stung at some point. But yeah, I like the over. If fight goes the distance is plus money, I'll take a chance. So why not? What do you think, Liam?
Oh boy. Not a fight that I love, right? But what I would say is let's talk about the context here. Road to UFC. It's relaunching on Saturday. This guy is the winner of Road to UFC. Does it behoove the company to have him go out there and embarrass himself before the Road to UFC airs? Probably not. So from a matchmaking standpoint, I think they probably tried to get him a win here. I think that's probably why he is favored in this fight. Now, when you look at the Blake Bilder side, 33 years of age, quite old for the division. Let's call it how it is. Does he have a great chin? No, he does not. How did he get to the UFC? He put on a fun and exciting fight and won in surprising fashion against Alex Morgan. You run that one back, I don't know that he wins that fight. So he's done well. He's done everything right. Can't really take much away from him. But to your point, I mean, getting rocked in every fight is almost an understatement. Like the guy is like on death's door and then finds a way to win every time. So finding a way to win, I'll always take my hat off to you and say, hey, cheers, brother. Like winners win. But also skills pay the bills. And eventually that bill comes due when you don't have them. So I do think that Blake, he does a lot of things that look pretty, but aren't very effective. And I think that, this is a winnable fight for his opponent. So don't feel like betting on this fight, but I think Lee's going to win. And I do know a couple sharp guys with big bets on Lee for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, this could be a hindsight God's gift, whether it's an early finish or just an absolute walloping where Blake just shows the toughness to hold on. And that's what keeps me off taking the cute dog shot. I just don't have enough information here on the favorite side of, like, if Lee's the dog, I'm interested. I think that's where I'm at from a betting perspective. But
right.
I think I missed the train on the best line on this fight too. Like it was plus 108 Bilder and minus 120 Lee at one point. Now we're back to minus 148.
Right. And I think to your point, and maybe it's what Liam is saying, I think maybe a couple sharp guys have put down tickets on Lee and maybe they've adjusted the line accordingly. And that would make sense. Hey, you look at the some of the things that you just can line a fight at without even looking at anybody's name, right? You've got a guy that's 5 years younger. You've got a guy that has a 5-inch reach advantage and a 2-inch height advantage. Generally those guys win 63% of the time right there. So it's a pretty good place to be. So
I think this sounds very racist, but I think it's just a factual statement.
Korean Tiger has done damage to a lot of Asian faces. I mean, I think
it's just a factual statement. So we're going to move on here. I appreciate you, Camden. That's a good insight. Because we might be doing some damage to an American face this time. Blake the Builder. Can he fix it? I don't know. I don't think he can. All right. Luana Dread Carolina is dreading this matchup against Julija, the armbar queen, Stoliarenko. We got an interesting matchup here. Luana Carolina was the big dog, plus 180 vibes against Ivana, barely any experience, Petrovic. And how did that work out for Ivana, going for the hip tosses against the bigger fighter? Now we got Stoliarenko coming in. We're talking double leg into straight mount, into the arm bar. We're going to do it over and over. And if you weigh 145 pounds and you were fed corn from the moment you were born, like Chelsea Chandler, and you were taught by Nate Diaz how to grapple, then you might have a chance to survive the arm bar. But we've seen 2 out of 3 now where it's just, once we even get to that position, it's game over. And Luana Carolina, let me just tell you something. I've seen improvements in her overall grappling game. But as I told the guru earlier, you just don't make the adjustments in a small time to catch up to an absolute lifetime of armbar activity. And Julija Stoliarenko has legitimately been doing this since the umbilical cord in the womb. That's how experienced she is with the armbar. And I just think that she's got what it takes to win this matchup. Now, if you're betting minus 130 Stoliarenko, we're going to have to sick Uncle Weezy and some oranges on you. However, if you want to bet the submission prop and you want to bet a +1, blah, blah, blah on the submission for anybody, it's Julija Stoliarenko. And if you want to do the round 1, round 2 combo, just on the off chance this thing somehow gets out of round 1, then I applaud you. But me, I'm going to take Stoliarenko. I'm taking her by submission. But DraftKings hasn't given me a line yet. So if anybody in the chat could give me a line that they have out there, or if the guru himself or Liam have any more insight, please let me know. But I think I've ended my ridiculousness. Guru, what you got?
Give me Julija Stoliarenko by round 1 submission. And hear me out. She's got 11 pro fights. She's got 10 round 1 armbar submission victories. I think Luana Carolina makes a mistake. She's somebody else that likes to swing wildly, crash forward. And she's also, as we picked her as a dog versus Ivana, we kind of expect her at times to use her little bit of wrestling and just kind of be big and be on top. If she's gonna get on top, Julia's gonna welcome that with open arms. She might just start the fight and pulling guard.
Are you saying with arms wide open?
With arms wide open. Exactly. So give me the armbar. Luana hasn't fought in a while. Julija just stole Molly McCann's lunch money in her backyard.
Wait. Was that you doing that on purpose? Julija stole?
Stu.
Oh, Julija Stoliarenko. Oh, my goodness.
Stole your lunch money.
No, I need to know like round 1, round 2 combo. Give me the round
we're
1
gonna
sub price too.
FanDuel's going to give us that option to be able to combine round 1, round 2 by submission. But I really do like it round 1. I think anything past round 1, things could just get really dangerous. So, hey, listen, if they're saying under 2.5 is plus money, I might take a shot there. I might take an alternate over at alternate under at -1.5. Why not? Because I think it might end quick.
So, Liam, we got a question in the chat for you specific to this awesome matchup. You can either break down the fight first or answer, but we'd love your insight too. Go ahead.
For sure. Yeah, I'll be happy to answer the question. When you're trying to defend an armbar, the essential element is that you don't get your arm hyperextended, right? Like if your arm gets hyperextended, it's in a position where it's going to break. Meaning if your elbow starts to go past this straight line, right now, it's my normal range of extension. But hyperextension means somebody has a hip behind my elbow and they are starting to push this further than it's intended to go. Now, when you're looking at how you defend that, I mean, the number one way, and I would say my best defense from a submission standpoint is often to the armbar. It's very difficult to finish me with armbars because I have short arms and because I am constantly trying to stack my opponent. So if somebody is trying to armbar you, they want to exert leverage through their hips, right? So where do you often see finishes for the armbar? I think the most effective armbar in the world is the belly down armbar. Why? And why do you see the Sambo guys often finishing their arm bars or Andre Muniz and some of these guys? Because you can't go anywhere. Like if it's belly down, it means that I'm pushing towards the ground with my hips and I'm holding your arm to my chest. So I can continue to create depth and leverage by keeping that arm to my chest and just breaking it, right? Like a belly down arm bar is a break if you continue to extend your hips forward and pull up to your chest. So that is why it's a devastating hold. If you get stuck in a belly down armbar, it's finished. And that's what happens most of the time to Stoliarenko opponents. That's why you see people react with horror when Roman Dolidze does that hip swivel to his armbar attempt, because they know that if he goes hip down, the fight is over. They're never getting the arm back. Andre Muniz did it so fast that when Jacare tried to clear his arm, it broke, right? Like he tried to clear his arm and then he realized, oh, my arm is now broken. The match is over. So when you look, your arm is just in such a compromised position that when it's already extended, you're basically screwed. Like that's at the point where now I'm in, try and grab a hold of it again, try and kick back over with my legs, desperation mode. But what you want to do is try and get to here, rear naked choke grip your own arm, because then it's going to be a lot tougher for them to extend it and put pressure on. Then they have to hand fight. If you watch somebody who's an elite armbar person, what makes them elite? It is not just the fact that they can get to the armbar. It's that they can hand fight effectively to finish it. Ronda Rousey, what was her calling card? She would get to that seated position. Then she'd have one hand on the mat. She would then fight to the wrist. She would do everything clinically. So there was just no defending it, right? It's like as soon as I start to get to my series, it's over. It's just going to take me a matter of time. And I think that Stoliarenko is kind of the same way. But here's the one concern I have. Number one, Luana Carolina was in a really dicey spot against, what's her name? Lupi Godinez. Very similar, by the way. Belly down armbar merchant, Lupi Godinez. Look into that. But when you look, you can see that Stoliarenko definitely has a clear path to winning this fight. Takedown, submission. But she's also a girl that's very limited at times in her grappling approach. Like, it's just the armbar. You know what I'm saying? And, like, frankly, if somebody was like an opponent of mine, a potential opponent of mine for a big match, and all their offense was the armbar, I'd be licking my chops a little bit, right? Does that mean it's going to be easy? No. Does that mean you still have a margin for error? I mean, you don't want to make a mistake, right? You lose your arm, you lose your arm. But I'm telling you, I'd be more afraid to go against a leg locker. I'd be more afraid to go against a really good choker, because when you look, the armbar is just hard to come by, right? Like, why do we not see them at a super high clip in the UFC? It takes a real depth of skill, and it takes an opponent that doesn't know what they're doing or that makes a mistake. And we've seen Luana Carolina get submitted with a comical knee bar. So the idea that she has everything figured out on the ground is not fair. But when I look at the numbers have started to come down. I think when she fought Jessica Rose Clark, the sub was like plus 300 or something. This is from memory, so don't kill me if I get this wrong. Don't crucify me. But the sub one was like plus 750. Now you're seeing like plus 480. Like, everything's just been nerfed down a little bit. So I still think that's where the value is to be had on the Stoliarenko side, is the early finish props. Stoliarenko by sub. She's a very predictable fighter in that way. But I do think if she gets into a fight and she doesn't get the armbar and she gets stuck on bottom, she's shown some real bad quitting tendencies. I think that under 2.5 at plus 125, not a crazy look. Is Luana Carolina the most dangerous finisher? No, we haven't really seen that, but sometimes styles make fights, right? And if I go out there and I sell out for that armbar, what's the real problem? Is that I might end up on bottom really tired and somebody pass my guard. Because when you go for armbars and fail, the defense to an armbar, right? Let's say I'm extended and I'm here. I then have to pass their guard. I have it stacked, no more pressure. Now pass the guard. And that is what we could see from Carolina if she's able to survive. Fun fight, though. I don't have the clear answer here, but I will just say I hate that the prices have come down on the Stoliarenko props, because those were things that I'd looked at in the past and profited on very substantially.
Love that. Love it. Also, like the guru said, appreciate all you guys here. Having a great time breaking these fights down with some of the best in the game. Liam at the top of that list. So sounds like, I mean, if you need a grappling tutorial, look no further than Mr. Liam Picks Fights. So we're moving on. We got El Lobo Solitario, the Lone Wolf, Landon Quinones versus Markel Martin. No, just kidding. Markel Medeiros, coming off of the Dana White's Contender Series, one of the most electric knockouts of the prior season. Landon came off of the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, did not look so hot there, but comes back, seems to have made, some improvements, getting into a nice back and forth war, high volume, eating a ton of damage, but surviving and able to land a bunch of his own. Great leg kicks against Nasrat Haqparast, really damaging the leg, but never really able to capitalize on all the damage he's able to put out, and just gets out-momented. And here against Markel Medeiros, I mean, I think Medeiros is just clearly the cleaner striker. I know he leaves himself in a bit of danger at times, but I mean, this guy just hits harder. And you want to talk about calf kicks. I think he's got better calf kicks. He switches stances so much more smoothly. He seems so much more aware of what he needs to do in each moment to get to an advantageous position. He's not necessarily the best wrestler, but if you're in the clinch and you go to throw a stupid high knee, he's going to reap the leg and end up doing a little hip toss action, getting his own top control. Oh, you're a grappler. You got a couple inches of height and reach on him. And now that you got thrown down, you're going to go for the triangle. Well, this guy knows to posture up, either both in or both out, staying safe. I mean, I really like what I saw from Medeiros in every aspect of MMA. And I think he's got the much better striking defense in this matchup. And I think that's what makes the difference. I know he keeps his hands low, but that doesn't mean he doesn't move his head better than Quinones. That dude is like literally a walking punching bag. And I laud his durability and the ability to make it the distance in a tough debut matchup on short notice against the minus 500 favorite Nasrat. But now, where the line's so much closer, wouldn't it just be poetic if this is the fight where he gets finished? So I got Medeiros here, and the line keeps crashing, man. I'm probably going to have a little money line action Because I think Quinones is like, he's just as inexperienced. I mean, this actually kind of gives me the JeongYeong Lee, Blake Bilder vibes. Like the new toy, the new one that the UFC wants to use versus like the guy that didn't work out so well so far. Like Tough was already a failure for Quinones, off contenders for Bilder. So I got Medeiros here. But I haven't laid a bet yet. I'm waiting to see where the market fully ends up. Keep sliding.
I think that Medeiros has the better boxing. I think he has a good work rate. He's explosive. He's got nice feints. What I like from Quinones, he's got a wonderful calf kick, decent boxing of his own. I like the way he uses his step off entries and he mixes up the combinations. I'm just not sure. Like you said, like he's just kind of a punching bag. I don't really like his defense. And he drops his hands when he's moving into strike. I just feel like somebody like Medeiros is who's really difficult to read because of his constant movement and his constant switching of stances. I think that's going to give Quinones a lot of problems. And I just don't think Markello is going to have an issue with output at all. And he's got more of the X factor that you're looking for when you're picking a fighter. He's also an inch taller, even though he's giving up a couple of 2 inches or two inches or so in reach. It says 1 inch in reach there, so very interesting to see how these guys will square up. But yeah, I'm not sure why the line is getting closer. Maybe somebody like Liam can give us a little insight into that. But I'm with you again, TB. I'm leaning Markel. So I like his gym as well. Factory X Muay Thai is a solid gym. I don't really know much about MMA Science Academy where Quinones is at. So, hey, another wolf. So maybe it's another boy who cried wolf. And that's the other thing. One more thing. MMA Twitter seems to love Quinones this week. It seems to be the dog that everybody's, barking with. And I think it's because it's a dog that you recognize against a guy that you don't. Oh, why is this guy I don't know a favorite? Well, I think he's got the more finishing upside. So, what do you think, Liam?
Listen, this is a fight that I have to research more. So I would be giving these guys a little bit of short shrift to give a very bullish opinion one way or the other here. But I don't rate Nasrat Haqparast. He's not a guy that I think of as a really, sound fighter. I think he's getting a little bit better. I don't think he's a horrible fighter, but frankly, I've always thought he's a little bit suspect. I always thought he was like, more hype than substance, let's say. So Landon going out there and competing with him didn't really surprise me, but it doesn't also tell me like, oh, he's the future of the division. But it's not like there's a massive advantage on either side here. It just seems to me like both guys from an intangibles, from a anthropomorphic advantage, like there's just nothing where I could be like, all right, there's clearly some huge edge. So it's going to come down to the tape. It's going to come down to who's got the better skills right now on paper. And I would assume that's going to be Medeiros, but I wasn't sold on him coming into the Contender Series, right? I wasn't sold on Landon coming off of that fight with Nasrat. So neither one of these guys, I'm like, oh, I need to have this. Like I need to invest in this commodity right now. So I'll do my research and then let that be my guide. But early on in the week, no strong feelings here. Can understand why it's a close enough line. Again, just look at the on paper intangibles here. I want to find out if Medeiros has fought a southpaw before. In terms of stumbling blocks for young fighters, could be like, hey, change the stance, wasn't expecting it. That threw me off. I underperformed my expectations. So in terms of how people are getting to the other side, that's something to consider. Maybe people are looking for that edge, but frankly, I don't see a huge edge in this fight. So I understand why it's closely lined, and I wish everybody the best of luck.
I will say he trains out of Factory X with a few dedicated southpaws. So I think he's getting those looks on the regular.
Awesome. And then the thing I wanted to highlight is that Medeiros was I believe a plus 200 or so underdog on Dana White Contender Series, but he was facing like a legit wrestler. And that's kind of maybe more where his weakness is in terms of his defensive grappling. But I thought he looked pretty decent in terms of defending some of the takedowns. And then he obviously turns a takedown attempt into a devastating knee knockout. So I thought he did a decent job. I don't expect Quinones to use those same sort of grappling chops here.
Alrighty. Choo choo. We got Thomas the Train once again. in 2024, we're kicking it off with a couple of Thomases that really like trains. First, it was Tom Nolan. Now we got Thomas Jefferson. I mean, Thomas Peterson. We got a great matchup here. This guy just loves playing with trains. And then we got a guy that just loves playing with Star Wars action figures, Jamal Stormtrooper Pogues. I mean, here's what I'll say is that the representation of these two gentlemen on the photos that I selected, it's like catfish. You see Thomas Peterson in his Contender Series matchup versus Chandler Cole, and he's like, oh, cool. I see what the other guy's coming in like. I don't have to look too good for this one. Tips the scales, max weight. I mean, the dude's only 6'1", so that means you're going to be pretty beefy if you're reaching the maximum of 266 for the heavyweight division. But then you look over at Jamal Pogues, former light heavyweight, guy who fights on Contender Series, then is like, you know what? Let's do it again, this time at heavyweight, and just continues packing on the pounds ever since. He goes to fight Mick Parkin, and like, I mean, the guy, was that Jigglypuff or Snorlax on the scales? And during the fight, the dude is just sleepy by round 2. Who's got the pokey flute? We got to get this guy up. It was bad. It was bad. And Guru, I love it. He's playing the pokey flute. So my question here is like, Jamal, my question, like, I see you working in the gym on your Instagram. I need to see what you look like and how many pounds you weigh before I can fully commit back to you. The underdog spot here against Mick Parkin, I thought it was disgusting and I wanted nothing to do with it. Straight up, I thought Mick Parkin was a special talent. Thomas the Train, I mean, he's got pretty good wrestling. He's got legitimate training partners. Gable Stevenson, someone that he's worked with at the college level and, you know, training here or there. You know, like, I don't think he's out of the best gym, but I do trust that, like, he's got legitimate wrestling background. I don't trust that he has legitimate cardio or enough striking defense to, like, avoid being popped in the face by the bigger guy who has a little bit of wrestling himself. So I lean towards the Jamal Pogue side here. It's just Thomas the Train as a favorite, coming off Contenders where I almost wanted to fade him with Chandler the Oompa Loompa Cole at plus 500, but I thought better of it. And I just think betting Thomas Peterson in this spot, I think you should think better of it. Guru, what do you got going on here?
What an interesting fight, and it's to me, it's like the classic grappler versus striker matchup, right? You want Pogues who's gonna want to keep it standing and keep him at range, and you've got Thomas the Tank Engine who wants to take him down and lay on top of him. You watch Thomas and Peterson's last fight on Dana White Contender Series, and good Lord, is that a terrible fight. I mean, he's got no striking defense. He's just walloping punches, and Chandler Cole should probably be a welterweight, but he's 150 pounds overweight or whatever. I mean, the dude is just out of shape, really, really bad. And then you watch him beat, you know, guy like Vernon Lewis. Dude's 40 years old. You watch him beating Waldo Cortez Acosta for the LFA title, right? He's winning those first 2 rounds. He's so tired. He's done. Waldo Cortez Acosta loses those first 2 rounds. Easy, clean. Round 3 comes back, beats him up. He's done. Done. He's so tired. Jamal Pogues is somebody that, you know, got outpaced on the feet by Mick Parkin. You know, and those just got damaged. He just never really got going in that fight. I don't really see that as an option for Peterson. His striking is abysmal. And if he tries to just start standing with him, I think the straight jab of Pogues is going to give him an issue. So I like the dog shot. Like you said, TB, I got to see that he's in shape because he looked terrible versus Mick Parkin. That was the other thing. He looked decent enough versus Parisian. Comes in, he looks like 10 pounds heavier. I don't know if he was literally 10 pounds heavier, but he certainly looked it.
It was literally terrible.
No, he literally was. No, it was 15. He weighed in at He weighed in at 250 versus Parisian. He weighs in at 266 versus Parkin. He came in 17 pounds heavier. He was legitimately out of shape. So he comes in at a nice, respectable weight, looking trim. He's certainly the pick here. I also kind of like the, which I get with a line, is I do think it goes over. I think both guys are fairly durable, and they take some time to get a finish if they even get one. Liam, for the final time tonight, what do you think, my friend?
Yeah, I'm going to have to make it a unanimous panel here. I called Thomas Peterson's first career win by submission last time out. You know, I was proud of that. I do a lot of research, and I'm willing to make a call when we don't see it in evidence, right? But I do like to talk about proof of concept, seeing somebody go out there and do something. And you mentioned Thomas Peterson. What do I know he could do? I know he could take somebody down. I know he can look for key locks and Americanas and shit that only works at heavyweight. And I know that I'm kidding there, but I know that he could also, you know, do some ground and pound damage. You know, he's got half decent power, right? He's not an incompetent. He's an athlete, so he can hit somebody on the feet and bother them, right? But he's not very technical. He's not very dynamic with his striking. So he's going to have to get the fight to the ground. Jamal Pokes isn't an easy mark in the wrestling. You know, like funny enough, Jamal Pokes went out there and out wrestled McParkin last time out. The problem was he just couldn't do it consistently, couldn't get control. And, you know, you guys kind of hit on this point, but I'll just say it. He was a little fat, right? He showed up fat. He didn't look like he was prepared physically. And he looked maybe career worst, right? He's a former middleweight showing up at the heavyweight limit. That's Jake Collier shit, right? That's not a good look. But if I'm seeing things that I believe I'm seeing on Instagram, then Jamal Pokes has lost significant amount of weight. I think he's probably 250, 245, 240, somewhere in that stage right now. You're seeing on this little picture on the screen, right? You see where the abs could be. If you imagine, right, you could like zone in. You're like, I can almost see like a little. You can now see that outline starting to poke through just a little bit, right? That means the belly fat starting to trim down. What happens when you go out there, you fly yourself to London, and you get beat up by another, you know, morbidly obese, jar of milk white guy in front of his hometown? You're embarrassed. That's what happens. You're embarrassed, and I think you want to get some get back. And now he doesn't have to fly all the way over there. He's doing it in Vegas. He's had a lot more experience as a pro against high-level guys. And Thomas Peterson, last time out, I thought had an easy mark of an opponent, right? Chandler Cole is a guy who wants to go out there and wrestle. He wants to go out there and grapple. And frankly, he's morbidly obese all the time. So I'm not trying to be rude at all, but like he is
morbidly.
It's the truth.
Morbidly.
He is morbidly obese. And in that sense, he was in a very difficult position because if you're going to be a very big body and shoot yourself underneath somebody, you're going to get stuck underneath. When you get stuck underneath, you're going to be made to pay. So that's why I thought that was a horrible matchup for Cole. I understood why he was such a big dog there. And we're not seeing that huge dog price on Jamal Pokes because he's not an easy mark on the ground. Take that for whatever it's worth.
It's certainly worth a lot because it came from you, my friend.
Amen. Amen. For the final time here, just going to say thank you so much to everybody in the chat tonight. Really appreciate all the fun times we've had, all the jokes, all the laughs, and like, just do the right thing, you know, give a little like, please subscribe. You know, it's only the right thing to do. We just like to have a good time and bring on the best people to help you. You know, we want you to have a bet for every fight if you want one, if you want to be, you know, smart and kind of follow a sharp path. You know, the choice is yours. You're the gambler, but we just want to give you the best info possible. And by bringing on amazing, sharp talent like Liam Picks Fights and any of the other guests we love bringing on our channel, like you got to meet a certain criteria to join the conversation here. So not claiming to be a professional myself, but hey, listen, it's all about the people you surround yourself with, right? So we keep on improving week to week, looking to get back at it. I can't wait to see the results. I think we got some great picks, and what a great time tonight. Liam, before we pass it off to Guru to do the amazing closing that he always does, what do you have to say for the people? What do you want to plug for yourself, sir?
I appreciate it, man. It's been a blast. It's always a pleasure. I enjoy shooting the breeze about these fights. At the end of the day, I'm a fight fan first. But I'm also here to make money, right? And when I'm trying to do that, I try and take it very serious. I try and do a lot of research, try and put myself and people that are following my information in a position to succeed, and not going to do that perfectly. I'm a human being, but like I said, I do take this very seriously, and I have a track record, I think, that backs up that I'm quite good at what I do. So that's what I'm going to continue to do, is try and dial it in. Started off with 2 winning events this year, and let's hope we can keep that ball rolling. Yeah, I'm excited, man. And I feel good coming off that last card. We got Jillian Robertson by KO plus 900, KO2 plus 2,500. That'll pay for a couple events right there. And yeah, man, just excited to keep the ball rolling there. great chat, great conversation with you two, and great people in the community keeping the ball rolling as well. So appreciate all you guys. Just find me at Liam Picks Fights everywhere, and all my information is easy to find. If you have questions, comments, concerns, get at me. I'm an approachable guy, and yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah, Liam, thanks so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate having you. One of my favorite people that I follow up there on Twitter, because not only are you a nice guy, because you really are, but you tweet out your hard work, like not just some random engagement bullshit tweet. Like you're going deep dives, you're going stat trends, you're going tidbit facts that people aren't talking about or looking at, the true deep dives. And it's one of the reasons why we had to have you on. I mean, I'll be honest, we do not move the show really for any circumstances but our own, but I wanted to have you on. You are a premier in this space, and it truly is an honor to have you on, and I had a blast, and you continue to teach me a lot each time. And I hope everybody else goes and follows you, looks at your Patreon if that's something that they're interested in, because if you're going to spend money on somebody's bets, you might as well do it with somebody like Liam. Works really, really hard. Guys, seriously, thank you so much for being in the chat, for joining us. I think we got over 20 live people. One Pie is awesome. Thanks so much for being here. We're back next week with Jack Hermanson and Joe Be Like Joe Body Bags Pfeiffer. We're back at our normal time on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Be there, be square. Make sure you're following my unbelievable co-host and me. That's it. You can end it. See you next time.